quick.
Oh, I'm gonna ask him all the hard questions. This is my friend Jeremy. He works for the Conservation Service, and he just pulled up. Is this the regulation Conservation Service vehicle?
No.
Okay, so he's actually my neighbor too, and look what he drove up on. Ain't this thing sweet? And he was walking around telling me all about it. And for aesthetics, we've got it parked next to mine, so it's all just a big block of green. But Jeremy, tell us the story on this tractor.
So I was probably 8 years old. My dad bought this tractor from Kentucky, and we used it to tractor pull in Dixon when they still had the antique tractor pulls. And you know, he got hurting for money, sold all the pulling tractors.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine is big in the John Deere clubs. He kept track of it. It went down into Mississippi to a couple of different people, and then a guy in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, bought it back, I think in 2017. I know he had it in 2017 because there was a YouTube video of it at their tractor pull in Lawrenceburg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to see that.
Mr. Three, it was his farm it was at. He passed away, and his grandchildren and children picked out, you know, I bet he had well over 100 antique John Deeres. They picked what they wanted to keep, and then they sold. Gosh, it was like, there was probably 100 at the auction, and they told me he had about that many more at home.
See, when you said it was an auction, I thought that you just meant it was just a big farm auction, you know, just
no,
so it was an actual.
There was some of his farm stuff there, like newer tractors and implements, but I would say 90% of the stuff there was just collectible antique tractors.
That thing's nice. All right, so he told me about this right here, that this was it was a.
If it was this is a 1952. It's the first year they changed from the letter A to 60 series. They thought it was going to be easier to understand instead of going, I think it was H and M, B, A, G, R. So they changed that to A, B, or no, B is a smaller A, and then I'm just going back to this. So the B was a 50, A was a 60, G was a 70, and 80 would have been the R, as just to kind of make things less confusing for people.
Right. And here, see, here I thought it was a pulling number or something.
No, no.
All right, so I missed this at the beginning. What is this?
Roll-o-matic. That was a big John Deere thing. So when you're going through your corn rows and stuff, this kind of can fluctuate. They're not stuck together. One can go up and down, and it gives you better traction.
Oh, I see that now.
In the furrow. That was a big selling point for them back then. They were the only, nobody else had that.
Are you weights? Is that original? Or is that for the pulling?
This
stuff?
is aftermarket pulling. It didn't have this bar when I pulled it. They added this at some point.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, this one, that one, and the back two were the ones I had on it.
And tell us again about the power block that you was talking about.
Okay, so Tractor Supply Company in the 50s offered like performance parts for tractors. So this would have been a upper 30 horsepower probably from the factory, and the power block, I want to say, puts it to like 48. So that was a huge jump for the 1950s.
Back when Tractor Supply was actually tractor.
Yeah.
And if you look on here, it says power block right
so
there.
It's got power block, the 6-3. So 6.1 would have been a power block for the early, like 1930s John Deere A. 6.2 would have been the late model A before this one, and 6-3 is the 60.
And what horsepower is this tractor?
It's probably pushing 50 now. It's got a, so you know, some of these were, this is a gas, they had an LP gas, you know, propane.
Mm-hmm.
Propane's got less BTUs or whatever than gas, so they had to run higher compression on a propane tractor. This has a propane head and a propane manifold, so that gives it higher compression and pushes the horsepower on up.
And was all that interchangeable?
Yeah.
So this was a propane, or could have been.
Somebody found a propane tractor and robbed parts off of it.
Okay.
And when we pulled it, we were running airplane fuel from the airport, like 120 octane or so.
How cool.
I don't buy that anymore. That's expensive.
Oh man! And you said this was a flywheel in here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So your starter is inside here. This is engages the starter, spins the flywheel, just like a normal car does now to start it.
Too cool. Too cool. And this something that surprised me in the back of it. He was showing me that it's got hydraulics on here.
Yeah, I don't have them in here right now, so these are kind of an aftermarket deal. That would have been plugged off from the factory, and I don't even know if I can get it out. But,
just twisting that.
I don't know if it's...
Is it gonna squirt?
I don't know. So this would be the plug. You would stick that here. You had your actual hose attachment with one of these styles, and you put that in and plug that back up. I got some of those at home, I found. And so this was an aftermarket deal because these pieces usually got lost.
Right.
And
but this is just more weights.
more weights, yep. And wheelie bars. We didn't really run those originally, but as people started getting hurt, they started making rules for the tractor pull.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people would really even cared about being safe, but it was about insurance. You couldn't get your tractor club insured to use the fairgrounds if you didn't have everybody running that stuff.
Do they work?
I never had it. I think it would be pretty scary if these were touching the ground if you're on it.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
We kept it weighted down enough that it never come off the ground when I pulled it when I was a kid.
This thing, so you had a birthday party for one of the kids, and I saw you pull the wagon. I didn't realize how big it is till you get right up on it. It's a big tractor.
These tires are for more like 120 horsepower tractor. They're 18.438, which is about a 16-inch wide tire. This actually came with an 11-inch wide tire from the factory, way smaller, but for pulling.
Did it sit that high though?
No,
Okay.
way lower. And it's got smaller ones up front. Those are a 15-inch rim with a small tire. It would have had a 16. I'm in the process of getting some of those and bringing the front back up. Trying to get some rims. This stuff is hard to find for a cheap price.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly.
So,
That's awesome though, man. That's awesome.
I enjoy it.
Well, all right, so last thing, what about the smokestack?
That's aftermarket. There's a muffler you can get, which my mom really wants me to get because it's loud. And it would have just, these bolts come out and the muffler, this piece of pipe runs up inside here, and you just slide your other muffler over, bolt it down.
And is the end, is it curved, is it straight? What's the end of the muffler look like?
It's about this diameter with the baffles comes up and narrows off. It's a lot smaller diameter than that. Well, it's about that wide for the muffler, and then the pipe coming out is a lot smaller.
That's, man, that is just awesome. That is awesome. And to think that you got it back after all that, that's the coolest thing.
I can't really. My friend asked me, he said, would you be interested in getting it back? And I said, yeah. And he had been working on the old man to sell it back to him, and the old man didn't want to get rid of anything. When they was at his auction, you know, they said some words at the beginning, but they also said that he never had a 401k or anything. He said these collectibles were his 401k, and when he passed away, they would sell his collection, and that would fund his wife and kids. And he did pretty good because nothing went cheap at that auction.
I imagine not. That's probably a parade pulling machine right there, ain't it?
We're gonna try. That's why I come over here on it. I'm gonna run it in the parade tomorrow. I wanted to make sure everything was running good.
Oh, you are? Okay. I didn't know where's the parade at.
Waverly.
Okay.
The Christmas parade.
All right.
We're gonna take her to the Christmas parade tomorrow.
Oh, cool, man. That's very interesting. Okay, so so the real reason that he's here is that we had a massive flood come back. When was it? Was it September,
It was
August?
in August.
August.
End of August, I believe.
And it tore all our fences down, and really, we fared a lot better than a lot of people. There's a lot of people killed in the county. I think it was 20 or 22 or something like that.
It was in the 20s.
But they, a lot of people.
There was 300 homes completely washed away. 500 or so were so damaged that no one will ever be able to live there again.
That's
It
just
was devastating.
unfathomable, isn't it? But what their agency does is they will come out and check the damage to farms and hopefully get some relief for what happened. And man, we are so blessed. We had some stuff happen here, but nowhere to the magnitude of a lot of places. I'm sure you've seen some bad destroyed stuff, hadn't you?
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so tell us what you're gonna do.
Well, you can see your fence is pretty much not intact. You got your electric temporary fence up. So we'll get a measurement on the footage of all your fence that was damaged, and try to calculate the cubic yardage of any debris that you've moved already or yet to move.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll turn this over to the FSA. So I'm with the Natural Resource Conservation Service. We're part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Our sister agency is the Farm Service Agency. This is their program. I'm just here doing the engineering part for them. So they'll do all the funding.
And without talking about how much or whatever, just what's the basic process whenever this happens? So you look at it today, get the footage, and then what happens? Just broad terms.
I'll calculate all your footages. It's an estimate, any debris, stuff like that, and I'll make a map of where all this is on your farm, and it'll get turned over to the FSA. They'll, once I get everybody's together, they'll request the funding.
And that being everybody in the county, right? Or
I believe it's Humphreys, Houston, and I heard a little corner up here, just up the road here of Dixon, that got included too.
So no small scale operation.
Hickman. No, I only do Humphreys and Houston, but I believe there's some of this program going in Dixon and Hickman County as well.
Sure.
Because Dixon's not.
Oh, that's right.
5 miles that way and a mile that way to Hickman, so they got the same damage we did.
That's exactly right. You want to step in here and look at it on the inside, or is this?
I should have done fired up this GPS. We just got these recently, and I'll start a track, and it's pretty accurate. And it's a kind of a more on the high end of these GPSs.
Well, so last time they came over here, and it looked like they was surveying, with tripods. Excuse me.
Yeah. I use that, when we're doing the stream bank work, but for this, it's rough estimate. This is going to be pretty accurate. Usually I'm within 5 foot, and we're just trying to get a rough estimate today.
Right.
So we know how much money to request.
Right.
In disaster relief. And once you come and fix all your fence, the FSA will be a little more nitpicky on how much you actually did.
Yeah.
And they'll want to know more about that then. But right now we're just getting a good estimate.
Well, is the GPS ready?
Yep.
Okay.
I dropped a waypoint just because I want to be double sure I knew where I started, but also it's going to track everywhere we walk.
Okay.
And I'll be able to dig out the maps of your farm and everything. Also, you know your farm number?
I've got it somewhere.
It's 1183.
1183.
That's my birthday.
Okay.
So I'll never forget your farm number.
I'll sell it to you for $1 million since you already got it memorized.
Right. Okay, so this is a gate. It looks like you're going to be replacing, right?
Yes, sir.
They pay for gates. There's money for gates. I don't know if it would buy a whole new gate.
Right.
We're going to tally all your gates as we go. And it's woven wire. Is all of it woven wire?
Unfortunately.
Right. Well, it pays the best. It's also cost the most.
So to be 100% fair, we knew we were doing the stream bank project.
Mm-hmm.
So right here, I just put these posts up, and this has been nothing but wire. That you see what's on the ground right there. We're going to do a video later about that stream bank project. You notice which fence has got the worst. It's the perpendicular to the creek,
Right.
And that woven wire just caught it. And
yeah, I like the woven wire on the perimeter of my farm, and I usually run barbed wire inside, but there's a huge downfall to it. I'm just dropping waypoints here so I kind of can, if something happens with tracks we're walking, I can always connect the dots.
Right. And luckily we had just got through fencing this back in the fall. So, I mean, it was
pretty new. A lot of trees over there. I seen the county was down at, what is it, Long Wallace?
Mhm.
Old summer home.
This is on.
It is on?
Yes, sir.
It's been a while since I've got popped.
It don't hurt too bad. They get out all the time.
Did y'all, when y'all were kids, put blades of grass on it?
No, what'd you do?
Oh, you've never done that? We gotta get that on video.
Oh, it could.
Use this wire. Hopefully it doesn't stop the juggle out of it. You sure it's on?
No.
I don't think it is, Brandon.
I thought that it was supposed to be on. That, you know, there was a cow out.
Usually, when I put a piece of grass on just a regular steel, and it may be different with this stuff, but you can almost feel the pulse, kind of like twitching.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so that was always what we did when we were kids. And me and my cousins decided we would try it with a green walnut. And I'm here to tell you, a green walnut is like a superconductor. You won't feel the full brunt. That blade of grass kind of has some resistance, but that walnut doesn't. I mean, maybe you can reuse some of them. So
That's the good gauge.
is this the, what they call it? No, that's different. This is the traditional wrap.
What's the other?
They call it like New Zealand wire. So instead of this piece runs down and wraps around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get that one a fold action.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is a solid piece this way and a solid piece all the way down. This one wire goes all the way. There's almost like a diamond weave around it. I got something else I can show you.
Yeah, I want to see it.
It's a lot stiffer. And you won't like it when you're putting it up. But they do demonstrations when they drive a car into it. And of course they don't break it from demonstrations.
Right.
But there's proof right down the road where I've had cars go through it. You know, if you're driving like they do on this road, you'll go through it. But it's pretty resilient.
All right, for the video, I just want to show. This is chest high on me. I'm 6 foot tall, and you look at how high this water was. This is just unreal.
Well, that corn down at my farm, what is it, like 3 properties down the creek?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It was taller than you, the corn was, and the corn was underwater. It got deep here.
Do you know where my grandfather's farm was at Bowl Spring?
Is that the horse trail ride?
So that was their home place, but you know, you turn left to go to Bucksnort. You go down,
right.
All right, and the farm that'll be on your right-hand side of the road, right before the swimming hole and all that. The man that bought it, he told me the other day that the top part of the field was underwater during the flood.
Ooh, wow. I know it was really deep down there because, you know.
Yeah.
So Randall, I went to look at his because he's got a stream bank put in just like you, and I wanted to go see, you know, because we had just surveyed, and I wanted to see how drastically the flood had changed it.
Yes, sir.
And man, I mean, it was, I don't know, 15, 16 foot up in the trees, debris out in his bottom by the creek. It was, I mean, I know Trace Creek got bad, but if Waverly had been down there where your old grandpa's farm was, way worse.
Oh yeah.
They're just lucky people don't live there.
So you probably know this better than I do, but I think it's an inch of rain for every an inch of rain on an acre of ground is 25,000 gallons of water. And you think we had 17.5 inches or whatever it was, and that's 3 miles down the creek, 4 miles down the creek, and think of all the acreage.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to get there's a program called Stream Stats. I can show it to you. I think anybody can use it. But you could find your farm here, drop a pin on the creek, and it'll tell you how much drainage comes to here. And it shows you the levels for, you know, an inch of rain or a 50-year flood or a 1,000-year flood. It tells you all the different information.
I'd like to see that.
You can get on the soil maps figure out what soil type you have, and it'll calculate how much is absorbing in the ground, how much is running off. Really neat stuff. What do you got on your sign here?
So we did the
Master small ruminant. Oh,
yeah, me and Megan
get into that. I got to get into that.
Yeah, you better try drugs instead because it's way more addictive.
Oh man.
Yeah,
well, my dad, he doesn't have his masters. He did like the entry level beef, and he just never did go back and finish his masters. So when he retires, he's going to do that.
I want to do that. I've not done that yet. Yes, sir. But okay, so
this is kind of the corner then.
So right here there was just panels, which I've already moved. This right here was basically junk fence, but there was some little semblance of a fence there.
Well, that's, you know, typically when we're not doing a disaster recovery program, I'm sure you've done some fishing with this. You know that there are certain standards you have to build to. But for this disaster recovery, it doesn't matter if it was your great granddad built this fence, as long as it was there and it's gone now. Okay, we're going to help you.
Well, yeah, you see what the disaster was. I mean, it was all the way up to that light pole.
Yeah,
and
I got some pictures of that light pole when I was over here with Eddie.
Oh yeah.
And this will continue.
Yep. And that may or may not be on. I don't know if that's hooked up or not. Let's give us a walnut.
Right. Maybe there's something different about this
polywire.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, there probably is. And I'll tell you, whenever you touch that versus the steel just hooked up to that same thing, you can tell a difference with them.
This is less or more?
Less, yeah.
Okay.
But it's also easier to work with. So.
Well, I've never really been around it, and they sent me to a fencing demonstration up at TSU the other day. It was supposed to be a class, but it was more like a sales pitch.
Yeah.
They had a guy kind of showing the woven wire he was selling, which is that I was telling you about. We got it on my phone before the demonstration. And then there was a guy doing, you know, electric fencing, and we talked about the different string, or whatever you want to call it, conductor attachments. And I learned a lot from the electric fence guy. Like your white post there, gosh, there's 200 different kinds of those for sale.
Yep.
How'd you decide on what you got?
What they had at co-op.
Okay. And then you got the little metal
piece
down in there?
Yes, sir. So on the bottom, step in. And
yep. I had some of them there.
And we used to get them that was double. You know, they had two pieces.
I've seen some of those.
But you know what? These are just as good.
Yeah.
They're just as good, because what you end up doing is, inevitably, you'll hit a rock on one side and the other side, and it'll bend it. So then you're doing this mess, you know, trying to. It's a disaster. Oh, it got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got a lot of water here all the time at these trees?
Since they built that subdivision.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there's one of the programs I was talking about earlier that calculates the ground absorption. It you have to like figure out your soil type and then decide, is it a plus pasture, or like let's say good pasture, fair pasture, or poor. And it also has like desert, pretty much any land type, but also subdivision, because that means everywhere there's a house, it's not absorbing water.
That's exactly right.
And it does affect everything.
So this used to dry up in the spring, and since they built it, there's so much runoff that it just stays wet, and it stays murky, just to be honest.
I don't know. Ours has had a lot more water. Of course, it's been a wet year.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's affecting us down there or not. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, because that was underwater, but it's there. That's the same fence. I think. It looks like it is, yeah. Because look, there's stuff hanging off of it.
Right.
So.
Well, I I didn't cross this with Eddie. I stopped here
That'll make it.
and estimated the
Okay.
distance.
Okay.
So we're gonna say another 100 foot.
Okay.
Or more. I can see that pole on Google Maps.
Okay.
And kind of split the difference between those two poles. And so this is where I'm going to.
Now we better walk around this because we'll sink up in it.
Okay.
It's pretty bad. I threatened to put in a pond right here because you can see there's a natural pond just about.
So you got any debris we need to look at?
So I had some trees and stuff, and I threw them over there.
How many?
Oh, the truth is that tree right there. It was just some pieces I'd cut off of it.
Okay.
But I've moved hay where it's flowed down from the creek or the neighbors or somewhere.
Debris is pretty much debris unless it's a tree.
Okay.
I do trees individually
So
based on size,
so-
and other debris is just time of
one tree, and it was basically 2 big old pieces of trunk about this.
about a diameter maybe. The big one.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, they got it broken into 4 different categories.
I'm trying to think of what else. The barn. You want to give us a new barn?
Probably can't do that.
Yeah.
This is the one you're taking down?
Yes. Yeah.
Man, I like that barn.
You know, you got a minute?
Yeah. I got the rest of the
Man, I'm so on the fence about taking it down or not because of that. And if it's been here for 70 years, 60 years, you know, but you'll see my dilemma when you go. This side is telephone poles, and if you look at it, it's in pretty decent shape. The carpenter bees or whatever. All the lumber was from up here in the holler behind the, you know where the shop is up here, and they had a sawmill up there, and it came from up there. But that side, that's just oak post, and you know what oak does after you sit in the ground, even if you coat it with something.
Right.
So they're all in various stages of rotting off. Well, when the flood came, and that was collapsing to start with, and when the flood came through, it pushed it. You can't even see it from over here.
I kind of tell the bottom's kicked in towards us.
Yep, and it just pushed it over. And I could take the lean-to off on the outside and get me some post and redo that, and maybe, you know, do one at a time and jack it up.
Right.
But it's I don't know. I hate to tear it down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So he basically showed us everything they're going to do, and then they're going to come back and do what?
So I'll get this all turned into the FSA. Someone from FSA will call you, and you're pretty much good to go ahead and start repairing your fence.
Okay.
And you want to keep any receipts, track your times you're working on it, all that kind of stuff. And then once they get word of how much funding they got, they'll call you about how much money they can give you.
Okay. So put the fence up and cross our fingers. All right.
Yep.
Well.
And you know, the president declared this a disaster area, so there should be plenty to go around.
I hope so. Hope so. Well,
a lot of these people need it. Collectible antique tractors.
that thing's nice. All right. So he